Why? Why would you name him after me?
What's wrong, Agraya? Are you ill?
Outlander's extended 7th season has wrapped up, but the saga of Claire and Jamie's epic love story is far from over. There's still plenty to explore, especially with Season 8 on the horizon. At the same time, fans are eagerly looking toward Outlander Blood of My Blood Season 2, because that prequel series is set to reveal a lot of details that could tie directly into the upcoming season of the main show. So, let's dive into everything we know so far. The first season of Blood of My Blood ended on a pretty gripping cliffhanger. The spin-off follows Jamie and Claire's parents, and in this timeline, it turns out they actually knew each other, which was a fun twist for fans. Across all 10 episodes, we watched Henry and Julia Beauchamp fight through a series of challenges just to be together, but by the finale, they finally managed to do so. But as with any good Outlander story, victory didn't come without complications. The ending raises questions about whether the Frasers and Beauchamps will be able to avoid being torn apart again. Even though Ellen and Brian were hand-fasted, they're not legally married yet, which could easily create tension with both families. Julia, while reunited with Henry, is still technically married to Lord Simon Lovett, adding another layer of complexity. And while Brian and Ellen may have escaped to avoid immediate family drama, the final scene shows flaming crosses lighting up the Scottish landscape, signaling the start of the Jacobite Rebellion. That kind of danger could quickly complicate any hope of peace. Similarly, Henry and Julia might be safe in their own time, but passing through the stones is not going to be as simple as they might hope. One of the most suspenseful elements of Season 1's cliffhanger is the question of whether Henry, Julia, and their infant son William actually make it through the Standing Stones. They finally escape their captors and reach Cré na Dun, but we don't know if William is capable of time travel. From what we know about the Outlander universe, there's a chance he might not be able to, which leaves a lot of uncertainty for the next season. Originally, Henry and Julia had a plan. One of them would take William through the stones, while the other stayed behind as a safety measure. But with Mr. Bug closing in, they were forced to act more decisively. Henry grabbed Julia's hand and placed it on the Standing Stone, and that's where the prequel left off. Because time travel is genetic, William could have inherited the ability from his parents, and technically, he's already experienced some time travel since Julia was pregnant when she first went through the stones. But the rules are vague, and it's also possible that Henry and Julia could go through the stones without him. One thing that is clear is that Henry and Julia won't be traveling back to a young Claire. She grew up without her parents, and that part of history is fixed. So, Season 2 of Blood of My Blood will likely explore either Henry and Julia trying to reunite with William if he's left behind, or all three of them ending up in a completely different time, which would open up a bunch of new story possibilities. Meanwhile, Brian and Ellen's storyline ends on a very different note, though it's just as tense. Like Henry and Julia, they've been somewhat captive throughout the first season, but by the finale, they finally gain their freedom. Their plan is to find a place where they can live together without family interference, but just as they're about to set off, Brian notices flaming crosses lighting up the Scottish countryside. The clans are rallying for the Jacobite uprising, which immediately complicates any hopes of a peaceful future. Historically, we know how this uprising ends. The Jacobites fail, but the characters don't, which sets up tension and potential separation. Brian is not destined to die in these upcoming battles, nor are many other key characters, but answering the call to arms could force him into a dangerous encounter with Lord Simon, especially after his dramatic exit in the finale. Outlander has a long history of separating lovers and building tension through these kinds of conflicts, so it's very likely that Brian and Ellen will face a period of forced separation in Season 2. That time apart will create emotional stakes while adding layers of drama, especially when you consider the added tension from Malcolm Grant's death. As it stands, only Brian and Ellen witnessed Malcolm Grant's death. Ellen had already left the wedding, so the rest of the Grants and Mackenzies assume she had nothing to do with it. However, Malcolm McKinnon Grant, his uncle, is clever and dangerous, and it's expected he will begin to suspect the truth. Now that his nephew is dead, he may become the new Grant Laird, which isn't good news for Brian, Ellen, or the Mackenzies. Although Dougal's marriage to Maura strengthens the alliance between clans, tensions are far from resolved, and the new Laird is unlikely to seek justice through honorable means. All of these developments in Blood of My Blood naturally connect back to Outlander Season 8. Prequels like this one shift our understanding of the main series, and Henry and Julia's survival, plus the potential existence of a second child, could have a significant impact on the main storyline. After all, it would feel odd if Claire's story concluded without her knowing the full truth about her parents. If Henry, Julia, and William do manage to navigate the Standing Stones successfully, they could potentially arrive in the 1770s, when Claire and Jamie are caught up in the American Revolution. More likely, however, they'll arrive closer to when Claire first entered the 18th century, which would allow their story to intersect with the faith mystery. Small connections, like Julia singing "I Do Like to Be Beside the Seaside" to William, the same song Fanny Pocock sang in Season 7, inspiring Claire to wonder if Faith survived, show how tightly the writers are weaving the timelines together. Exactly how this all comes together remains a mystery, but Season 8 promises clues, while Blood of My Blood Season 2 is likely to fill in more gaps. Production on the second season is already underway, and the main cast is confirmed to return, including Harriet Slater, Jamie Roy, Hermione Corfield, and Jeremy Irvin. Sadly, some characters won't return, like the late Brian McCarty, who played Isaac Grant, and John Lumsden, who played Malcolm Grant. Slater even shared that the scene involving Malcolm's death was a major shock for the cast, as no one expected it. Killing Malcolm was seen as necessary to allow both couples to finally be free and together, which highlights the dramatic stakes this prequel keeps building. Julia and Henry were reunited with baby William and were attempting to travel through the stones back to the 20th century, but with Archbug and his men pursuing them, the cliffhanger left fans wondering whether they succeed. Jeremy Irvine teased that Season 2 picks up in a place so surprising that even he wasn't sure how the character got there. Hermione Corfield added that filming Episode 7 left her completely in the dark about Julia's fate. Irvine also mentioned that Season 1 was largely about setting up characters and backstory, while Season 2 gives them more freedom to explore their arcs. He admitted that some days on set felt like the budget had gone through the roof, with more elaborate and intense scenes than before. Jamie Roy also reflected on Brian's moral dilemma in the next season, with the fiery crosses representing an ultimatum. Does Brian answer his laird and go to war, or does he stay with Ellen and risk becoming a fugitive forever? Roy also humorously noted how Ellen must be questioning her choices, having just left the comfort of the castle for a hole in the ground. Fans have also been curious about whether we might see the births of Jamie or his sister Jenny, and Roy teased, well, everyone has to be born at some point, leaving a playful mystery for viewers. Starz confirmed that production for Season 8 was slated to continue into January 2023, with Catherine Busby, president of original programming, highlighting how the series has captured audiences worldwide and expressing excitement for a proper conclusion to Claire and Jamie's love story. So, is Season 8 the final season? Yes. Starz is promoting it as a thrilling, emotional farewell to the series, though executive producer Meryl Davis had previously hinted that they could continue as long as the actors, stars, and Sony were willing. Still, promotional material and cast updates indicate that Season 8 is likely the series' grand conclusion. Season 8 is based on Diana Gabaldon's 8th novel, Written in My Own Heart's Blood, and will follow Claire and Jamie as they navigate the American Revolutionary War. Meanwhile, Brianna, Roger, and their son will be handling their own challenges in the 20th century, especially after facing off against Rob Cameron in Season 7. There's also the ongoing question of Faith, Jamie and Claire's firstborn, who was believed to be stillborn, adding an emotional thread for viewers to follow. And that's that for today's video, folks. Thank you so much for watching, and we will see you in the next one.